Lesson 42 is about solving multivariable equations. And the first problem we have here says solve for x. And what we have is 6y minus x plus z is equal to 4. Now if we've got multiple variables and we want to solve for x, what it means is to rearrange the equation so we only have x on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead and do that. In order to get x by itself on the left-hand side, just the x, the first thing we can do is to subtract the z. So if we subtract z on one side, we've got to balance it out by subtracting z on the other side. We're going to get 6y minus x is equal to 4 minus z. Now, we've got to go ahead. We're still trying to get x by itself. We've got 6y. We need to move that to the other side. So this is a positive 6y. Let's subtract 6y. What we do on one side, we have to do to the other side to balance it out. So, we now have negative x is equal to 4 minus z minus 6y. Now, we're down to our last step. We just want x. We don't want negative x. So if we don't want negative x, well, what we're going to do is we're going to say divide by negative 1. Because this is really just saying negative 1 times x. So if we divide this side by negative 1 to balance out, all we're doing is switching the signs of everything on the right-hand side. We're making it the opposite because we're really taking the opposite value of x. So our final answer must come out to be x is equal to, making everything opposite, so we have negative 4 plus z plus 6y. And we've got our final answer. Sometimes these problems with multiple variables are actually easier than problems with numbers because this is as far as we can simplify. We can't add because we don't know what z is, and we can't add and multiply because we don't know what y is. We've got our final answer. Let's look at our next example. We want to solve for y. And in this problem, well, we've got y's on both sides of the equation. So, what I see is that we have a negative 2y on the left and a positive y on the right. If we want to get y by itself, it can be on the left or the right. I'd like to make it positive so that it's easier to work with, so we don't have to take the opposite in the end, like our last example. So let's add 2y to both sides. We're going to add 2y to both sides. If we use the positive version, it'll make it a little bit easier in the end. Our y's cancel on the left. And we're going to get 4x plus 2 is equal to, well, we've got y plus 2y, that's 3y, minus 4. Now we're trying to get the y's by itself. So, next step is going to be to undo the subtraction of 4 by adding 4. And we're going to add 4 to both sides to balance out our equation. Then, we're going to be left with 4x plus 2 plus 4, that's 6, is equal to 3y. Negative 4 plus 4, that's 0. That canceled. That's just what we wanted. Now we've got to get y by itself, so we're going to divide by 3. We're going to divide by 3, and we're going to divide by 3. What we do on one term, we have to do on all the terms. We can get our final answer now. The 3's cancel out. We're left with y by itself. So y is going to be equal, we have 4/3 x. We can't simplify that any further, so we can write 4x over 3 plus 6 over 3, that's 2. So we've got 4x over 3, or 4/3 x, plus 2 is equal to y. It doesn't matter if our answer, our variable that we want, is on the left side or the right side. Both of them tell us what y is equal to. So we're all done. We've solved for y. One more. Let's solve for x. Now if we want to solve for x, well, everything except for 0 is on the left. So let's add some like terms. First, let's start with our y's. Let's figure out how many y's we have. We've got 5y. We've got negative 2y. 5 minus 2, that's 3. So we have 3 y's. Then let's figure out our x's. We've got 1x. We've got 3 x's. That's a total of 4 x's, so plus 4x. And then we just have our minus 4. So we've got to add that on. Minus 4 is equal to 0. Now we want to solve for x, So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 3y from both sides. We're going to subtract 3y from both sides to balance it out. And we're going to do the plus 4 at the same time. We're going to move the plus 4 over to the right-hand side as well. Doing that all in one step lets us get 4x, because everything else cancels, is going to be equal to negative 3y plus 4. The last step. We want to get x by itself, so we want to undo the multiplication of 4 by dividing by 4. That leaves x alone. It isolates it. We're going to divide by 4 for each of our remaining terms. And now we've got our answer. Our answer, it must be x is equal to negative 3y over 4 plus 4 over 4. That's 1. We're all done. We've got our final answer. We can box it and move on to the next question. Important thing here was to add like terms first, then rearrange, and then you want to isolate your x to get your answer. Lesson practice will be on page 170. Make sure you've got your notes completed, and I'll see you during our next class.